So I think we're ready now to begin the ceremony. Today we'll start the ceremony. Mr. Peter Kwan, the monastery president, will lead you all in the Arahang to begin with.
Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantan Abhivademi Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Sanghang Namani Imani Mayam Bante Pansukula Jivarani Sapari Varani Bhikkhu Sanghasa Ono Jayama Sadhu no Bante Bhikkhu Sangho Imani Pansukula Jivarani Sapari Varani Patikan Hatu Amhakan Digaratan Hitaya Sukhaya. Venerable Sirs, we present this cast of piece of cloth of ours together with its accompanying articles to the Bhikkhu Sangha. May the Bhikkhu Sangha please accept this cast of piece of cloth of ours together with its accompanying articles for our long-term welfare and happiness.
ภาษาไทยด้วย
ข้าแต่พระสงฆ์ผู้เจริญข้าพเจ้าทั้งหลายขอน้อมถวายผ้าบังสกุลจีวรกับเครื่องบริวารทั้งหลายเหล่านี้แก่พระภิกษุสงฆ์ขอพระภิกษุสงฆ์จงรับผ้าบังสกุลจีวรกับเครื่องบริวารทั้งหลายเหล่านี้เพื่อประโยชน์และความสุขความเจริญของข้าพเจ้าทั้งหลายตลอดสิ้นกาลนานเทอญ
While everybody is making their way to offer to the monks, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce each senior monk that has been kind enough to join in with this auspicious occasion. Firstly, we have Prateep Silapon or Lumpur Maha Samai. He is the abbot of Wat Budarangsi in Lumia, New South Wales. Lumpur is the senior-most monk in the Thai forest tradition here in Australia and has been kind enough to join us for this event and support this young monastery of ours. Next we have Prakru Patara Dhammasiri, also known as Lumpur Dtumrong. Lumpur Dtumrong is the abbot of Wat Pa Nam Kam Kung, Ubon Ratchathani in Thailand. Lumpur has kindly travelled from Thailand all the way to join in with the events both in Melbourne and here at Bodhipala Monastery. Next we have Pratep Pacharayana Muni, also known as Lumpur Nyanadhammo. He's the abbot of Wat Ba Ratanawan in Wat Nam Kiel in Nakhon Ratchasima in Thailand. Lumpur is originally from Adelaide, and Lumpur has kindly travelled all the way specifically to Adelaide to help Bodhipala Monastery support us and join in with this auspicious occasion. Next we have Prat Sopon Bawanawited, also known as Lumpur Kalyano, the abbot of Buddha Bodhipala Monastery in Melbourne, Victoria, who we all know very well. Then next we have Ajahn Likit, abbot of Wat Ratana Pratip in Theberton here in Adelaide. And next we have Prakru Joti Dhammawited, also known as Ajahn Thani, abbot of Wat Dhammarangsi in Melbourne, Victoria. Next we have Ajahn Pitoon, abbot of Wat Sri Ratnawanaram, My Law, here in Adelaide, South Australia. Next we have Ajahn Seksan from Kanchanaburi in Thailand, who's travelled with Lumpur Dtumrong. Next we have Prakru Sankarak, Ajahn Larry Varadhammo, the abbot of Bodhisattva Forest Monastery in Wilton, New South Wales.
Vipatipatipahaya Samba Sampatisitia Samba Dukkha Vinasaya Parita Buddha Mangalam. Vipatipatipahaya Samba Sampatisitia Samba Baya Vinasaya Parita Buddha Mangalam. Vipatipatipahaya Samba Sampatisitia Samba Roga Vinasaya Parita Buddha Mangalam.
We'll invite Tanjokun Sopon Pawanawite to invite the Devas on this auspicious occasion.
Arito anamitang samita badanta avikita cita paritang bananto Saki kami charupe kirisi karatate jantaliki vimane Tiperate jagame taruvanagahane ke havatumi kete Bhuma jayanto deva jalatala visame yakha kantha panaga Titanta santikeyam univaravachanang sadhavo me sunanto Dhamma savanakalo ayam badanta Dhamma savanakalo ayam badanta Dhamma savanakalo ayam badanta
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Saranang Gacchami Dhammang Saranang Gacchami Sanghang Saranang Gacchami Satta Soti Bhavantu Te Bhavantu Sabba Mangalang Rakantu Sabba Devata Sabba Sanghano Bhavena Satta Soti Bhavantu Te Next, we would like to invite ท่านเจ้าคุณเทพพัชรญาณมุนีหลวงพ่อญาณธรรม the abbot of Wat Ratanawan Wanam Kio, Nakhon Ratchasima, Thailand, to please give us some words on this auspicious occasion.
Firstly, I'd request permission from the Venerable Chokan Maha Samai and Luang Dtumrong, the senior monks, out of deference and respect for them, and greetings and respects to all the other bhikkhus who've travelled to take part in this ceremony and have gathered together. And rejoice in all the good lay people who have made the effort today to come up in face of rain and thunder and lightning, to come up to Bodhipala Monastery to take part in a ceremony today which is the installing of Buddha relics in the Buddha image that we have, a beautiful Buddha image which was cast in Thailand. I was fortunate enough to be invited to take part in the casting of that Buddha image, and now it is placed here in the renovated hall here in Bodhipala Monastery. And one of the things that, as a person who discovered Buddhism in Adelaide 46 years ago, purely by accident, read about Buddhism and then realized that I was very drawn to the teachings of wisdom and compassion and ethics and morality, and I found it a very practical teaching to approach because I was a biologist, and I found that this is a thing that you can apply in your own life as a principle of a philosophy of life, a way of living, and you can see the results for yourself. You don't have to have, say, belief or pure faith in the initial stages. You can say, well, I will try this Buddhist path and ways of instructions on how to make the mind peaceful and serene and compassionate and kind, and see if it has an impact on my life and the lives of people around me. And I'm sure that all of you who have practiced aspects of the Buddhist path have seen the impact, and we can see the impact on those teachings here in the monastery today. We have a great gathering of Australian people, international backgrounds, coming together in from very diverse communities and different countries, but we can come together because we have certain principles that we respect and worship in this life, the principles of loving kindness, the principles of compassion, the principles of moral and ethical truthful living, the principles of living harmoniously, developing wisdom and understanding. And so that we're striving to make peace within our own minds and bring peace to the people around us, make our lives happier and avoid unpleasantness, and bring the same to the lives of others. And so today, this ceremony, for those who are not familiar, is the installing of Buddha relics. And the Buddha, when he passed away in India over almost 2,600 years ago now, at his cremation, when the cremation took place, the ashes that were left was divided up by various groups of disciples into various groups of disciples, and those ashes were placed in stupas or chaityas or pagodas that we refer to, and in various areas in India, for example, at Kapilavatthu, and where the Buddha lived for 29 years before he became a monk. And those places became places of worship. It was where the ashes of the Buddha remained. And so Buddhists would travel to those with devotion and respect and pay respects, offer candles, flowers and incense, and purified fragrant waters, and offering, and then practice meditation and practice the Buddha's teachings in that environment. And later on, those 8 original stupas were opened up, and the relics and the ashes that were found in there were discovered to have sometimes crystallized and transformed, and so they were spread over vast areas of India and into Sri Lanka, into Thailand, and now today we have some relics that have been brought here and are going to be installed into this Buddha image here in South Australia, in Mount Pleasant, and we're going to do that process. So this is something that is a symbolism to remind us of the Buddha. But the Buddha just didn't give us sort of this material form to pay respects to, like the Buddha image. It's a material form, but it's a symbol. You'll find the Buddha image is a symbol of someone serene, peaceful, calm. That's usually, when you look at a Buddha image from an artistic point of view, you find it, there's a certain degree of beauty in the calmness, the tranquility of that Buddha image. And that's why I think a lot of people like seeing Buddha's images as an art form. But for a Buddhist, it's even more than that. It's a reminder. I once had a Thai family bring their son to see me. And their son had studied in America. And he was, when he came home, he was very critical of his parents because they had a number of Buddha images in the house. And he said, well, why do you have those Buddha images, Mum? It's not the Buddha. It's, just bronze or wood or stone. And they weren't sure how to answer. So they brought him to see me because having been brought up as a Westerner, they thought that maybe I can deal with that. So I asked this young man, I said, when you went to study in America, did you get homesick? And he said, yes. And I said, what did you do when you got homesick? And he said, well, this was before mobile phones. He said, I had a little photo album. So I'd take the photo album out and look at the pictures of my mother and father and my sisters and brothers. And I felt a sense of love for them and could feel their love for me. And they'd put a lot of effort and money to send me to America and to study to get better in my education and to grow as a human being. And I had this gratitude and appreciation. And so I would overcome my loneliness and homesickness there. I'd have a sense of this appreciation for all the teachings that my parents had given to me. And I said, well, that's very good, but actually a photograph is just a piece of paper. It's not your parents. It's a symbol of the parents, but it's a symbol, a piece of paper with a picture on, which is very meaningful to you, but to somebody else, maybe not so meaningful. But that is very meaningful because it reminds you of all the goodness from your parents, all the good qualities, the things they've instilled, and reminds you of their love, and you're a love of them as well. And I said, so too, a Buddha image for Buddhists is that. It's made out of cement or a bronze or wood or what have you, but it is the symbolism. It's a symbolism to remind us of the historical Buddha and the things that he taught us. His teachings, the Dhamma that he taught us, the truth that he taught us, to live an ethical life, to live a harmless life, to live a compassionate life, to live and grow in wisdom and understanding. So that when we do that, then we apply those teachings that the Buddha gave us in our own daily lives, then we feel close to the Buddha, just like you felt close to your parents by following their guidance and advice to you. Now I understand, he said. Yes. So that symbolism of the Buddha is a very important symbolism. One time I was asking a sculptor who was sculpting a Buddha image out of stone, and I asked him, how do you visualize the Buddha image in that piece of stone as an artist? And he said, it's very easy. I just chip away everything that's not like a Buddha. Yes? And I thought that's an excellent answer, because that's actually how Buddhists should practice. If we want to be like the Buddha, be more compassionate, more wise, more liberated, free from greed, hatred and delusion, we have to chip away all the things that are not like the enlightened ones, is not fully enlightened. So if we get angry, we chip that away. When we get jealous or envy, we chip that away. When we're selfish, we chip that away. We wear down, we cut away, polish all those things that are nothing like the enlightened ones in our life. And as we do that, we get closer and closer to the Buddha. And so if we remember that symbolism, that's the way of practice. That is actually a very simple way of practice of when you feel upset, is a Buddha upset? No. So we relinquish that negativity, the fault-finding mind, the sadness, the depression, grief. We let go of that and replace it with wisdom, compassion, equanimity, truthfulness, integrity, all the qualities that we envision in the Buddha. And that's true. These are fundamental truths in religious teachings, not just Buddhism. It is a quality that we can all relate to. And one time in Thailand, a gentleman who's a psychologist, he was going around to different religious teachers all over the world and interviewing them about their religion. And he came to see Ajahn Chah, and he asked him 3 questions. He was asking all these different religious teachers these 3 questions. How do you practice your religion? Firstly, yes, how do you practice your religion? What do you get from practicing your religion? And what's the way you practice your religion? Yes, and the results of that. What is the results of that? Yes, what do you get from it? So Ajahn Chah, when he heard the 3 questions, how do you practice your religion? He answered, how do you eat? And the fellow was taken back by that. And he said, no, tell me, how do you eat? And he says, well, I take what is beneficial and nutritious, and I avoid foods that are detrimental to my health, and then I eat gradually, one mouthful at a time, progressively. And he said, and how do you feel as you're eating? He says, well, I feel, the hunger disappear, and a sense of satisfaction and gratification arise. And then he says, how do you feel after you've eaten? And he says, I feel full and content and at ease and healthy and strong. And that's, Ajahn Chah said, and that's exactly how I practice my religion. Yes, we practice in terms of we take what is beneficial. We take from the Buddha's teachings, those teachings of truthfulness, integrity, honesty, generosity, compassion, kindness, humility, all those noble things. And we take those and we gradually apply them in our lives. We apply them when we need them. For example, when we're not happy, that's a time when we need nutriment for the heart, not nutriment for the body. We need the food for the heart. And so we take those teachings and apply it and gradually take them in. And then we also avoid those things that we place in our hearts and our minds that cause pain and suffering, that cause displeasure, that makes us upset and angry, that makes us selfish and self-concerned. We don't consume those. So be careful what you put into your heart, what you put into your life, what you consume through the mind and through the heart is very important. To avoid certain things, but also take certain things which are going to be very beneficial in life. And also that we do this progressively. It's not that the Buddha himself became enlightened instantaneously. He practiced for 6 long years. It's not that we ourselves are going to suddenly become fully enlightened over a very short period of time unless we have great paramitas. But it's through this regular, steady practice of coming to the monastery, doing acts of generosity, meeting kind friends, interacting with the monks, listening to teachings on the Buddha, practicing meditation, doing chanting, calming your mind down, and when you go home, to take those teachings to your home as well, so that you're not just, say, kind and generous to the monks, but also you're kind and generous to your husband when he gets home from work, and he's kind and generous to you. You're kind and generous to the children. There's compassion, there's empathy there, and that we're giving these teachings to them too. So they're developing ethics and understanding in a very busy society, in a confused society. And so as we apply these teachings in daily life progressively, then the result is we gradually find that suffering is decreased in our lives and happiness and contentment is increased in our lives. There's a sense of well-being and ease. And the Buddha said that there's no greater quality that he sees that brings happiness than contentment. If people have a sense of contentment, then they have a sense of ease straight away. There's no greater quality that brings unhappiness than discontentment. So, for example, today, everyone here is sitting with the monks. We're sitting in the presence of a Buddha image. We're doing a wholesome ceremony. We've had a beautiful meal together. It's nice weather. It's a pleasant environment. It's peaceful. And everyone is living in harmony. This is something to be content with. This is good enough. This is a wonderful experience. To come back to the present moment and experience the moment. This is good enough. And then we can have a sense of well-being and contentment in our lives. So I'm going to, on behalf of all the senior monks and the junior monks, the Sangha, the community of bhikkhus here, and all the lay people, the good lay people who have made this monastery happen, going to express my rejoicing and Anumodana blessings in your good effort. And I am completely blown away by the number of people who have arrived today. On the alms round, I lost count after 430 people putting food in the bowl. So I think there were at least over 500 people, and that's quite remarkable. When I first went to my Buddhist society in 1975, there were 6 members. And that was Tibetan, Theravada, Zen, all communities. There were 6 of us. So it's been a big growth. This is just one monastery now in Adelaide. There's many, many monasteries. Got many monks of different traditions, and we can come together and do something together noble and wholesome and harmonious. And that speaks a lot about Australian society and its openness and acceptance, that we can come and practice this beautiful religion in such a beautiful place. And so we rejoice together. Now we're going to actually begin the ceremony, and as the monks are enshrining the relics, the monks will do the Jayanto, the victory protection chant, so that anyone who comes here into this monastery may be protected from all dangers or evils, or fears or ill health, and may be blessed in this life and in the future. Okay.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Sujaya man kale apara chita palang kesi se patawi pokare apise kesa papu danam akapato pamota tisunakata sumana
We now invite Prakut Pacharadhammarangsi, Longpo Dtumrong, to come over to invite to put the Buddha's relics.
Kaya kamang vacha kamang patakinang patakinang mano kamang panitite patakina patakina nikatawa nalabanta te patakine janto bodhiyamo sakaya nang nanti wadano ewang tawang vijayo ejaya sujaya mangkale aparajita palang kesi se patawipo kare api se kesa papu tanang akapato pamonติโสนากาตังโสมันกะลังโสปะปะตังโสติตังภกะโนโสโมโหโตจะโสเยตังพระมจาริอุปตากินังกายกรรมังวาจากรรมังปตากินังปตากินังมโนกรรมังกนิทิเตปตากินาปตากินานิกตวะนาลปันตเตปตากินเนทยันโตโพธิยาโมเลสักยานะนันติวาตโนเอวังตวังวิจโยอิจยาสุจยมันกะเลอปราชิตปะลังเกสิเสปตวิปุกะเรอภิเสเกสะปะปุตานังอังกาปะโตปะโมตาติโสนากาตังสุมังกะลังสุปะปะตังสุโหติตังสุกะโนสมุโหโตจะโสเยตังพระมจาริสุปตากินังกายกรรมังวาจากรรมังปตากินังปตากินังมโนกรรมังปณิทิเตปตากินังปตากินานิกตวานาลปันตเตกินเหชยันโตโพธิยาโมเลสักยานังนันทิวาตโนเอวังตวังวิจโยโหติจยาสุจยมันกะเลกราชิตปาลังเกสิเสปตวิปุกะเรอภิเสเกสะปะปุตานังหักกะปะโตปะโมตติสุนากาตังสุมันกะลังสุปะปะตังสุติตังสุกะโนสุโมโหโตจะโสเยตังพระมจาริสุปตากินังกายกรรมังวาจากรรมังปตากินังปตากินังมโนกรรมังปณิทิเตปตากินาปตากินานิกตวะนาลปันตเตกินเนชยันโตโพธิยาโมเลสักยานังนันติวาตโนเอวังตวังวิจโยโหติจยาสุจยมันกะเลอปราชิตปาลังเกสิเสปตวิปุกะเรอภิเสเกสะปะปุตานังอักกะปะโตปะโมตติโสนากาตังสุมังกะลังสุปะปะตังสุติตังสุกะโนสุโหโตจะ สุเยตังพระมจาริสุปตากินังกายกรรมังวาจากรรมังปตากินังปตากินังมโนกรรมังปณิจิเตปตากินาปตากินานิกตวานลปันตเตตากิเนชยันโตปุติยามูเลสะกัญญาณังนันติวัตโนเอวังตวังวิจโยโอหิจายาสุจายมันกะเลอปาราจิตตปาลังเกสิเสปตวิโปกเรอภิเสเกสัพพพุทธานังขังกะปะโตปะโมตติสุนังกะตังอังกะลังสุปะปะตังสุขานุตังกะโนสุโมโหโตจะสุเยตังพระมจาริสุปตากินังกายกรรมังวาจากรรมังปตากินังปตากินังมโนกรรมังปณิจิเตปตากินังปตากินังนิกตวานลปันตเถปตากิเนจยันโตตุติยามูเลสักกายานังนันทิวัตโนเอวังตวังวิจโยอิจยาสุจยมันกะเลอปาราจิตตปาลังเกสิเสปตวิโปกะเรอภิเสเกสัพพพุทธานังอากาปะโตปะโมจติสุนังกาตังสมังกะลังสุปาปาตังโสติตังโนกะโนสุโหโหตุจะสุเยตังพระมจาริสุปตากินังกายกรรมังวาจากรรมังปตากินังปตากินังมโนกรรมังปณิจิเตปตากินังปตากินังนิกตวานลปันตเตตากิเนจยันโตโพธิยามูเลสักกายานังนันติวัตโนเอวังทวังวิจโยโหหิจายาสุจายมังกะเลอปาราจิตตปาลังเกสิเสปตวิโปกะเรอภิเสเกสัพพพุทธานังขังกะปะโตปะโมทติสุนังกาตังสุมังกะลังสุปาปะตังสุติตังสุกะโนสุโมโหโตจะสุเยตังพระมจาริสุปตากินังกายกรรมังวาจากรรมังปตากินังปตากินังมโนกรรมังปณิจิเตปตากินังปตากินังนิกตวานลปันตเตปัตตากิเนภวัตุสัพพมังคลังประคันตุสัพพเทวตาสัพพพุทธานุภาเวนัสสตาสุเทภวันตุเทภวันตุสัพพมังคลังประคันตุสัพพเทวตาสัพพธัมมานุภาเวนัสสตาสุเทภวันตุเทภวันตุสัพพมังคลังระหันตุสัพพเทวตาสัพพสังฆานุภาเวนัสสตาสุเทภวันตุเท
อันดัมมายังสาธุการังกโรมาเสเอ
สาธุสาธุสา
Honorary Thai Consulate General for South Australia and Northern Territory, Khun Mandy-Jane Giannopoulos.
It's for you. 2 hands out. Very good. I'll give you one for your partner.
And next.
Today we are giving the title of Honorary Committee Member to Mr. Bill Mitchell, who lives in Birdwood, and you probably all know was helping park the cars this morning. You might ask, why are we doing this? Well, when we first came to Mount Pleasant, sorry Bill, I'm making you sit down longer. When we first came to Mount Pleasant 3.5 years ago, obviously we hardly knew anyone. We knew some people in Adelaide, but not really anyone locally. And we followed the instructions of our teacher, Luang Cha. When the monks first went to England, he said, go out on alms round every day. And the monks protested and said, but we're not going to get any food, what's the point? And he said, you won't get food, but you'll get people. So we started doing that to the local villages and towns around here, Mount Pleasant, Birdwood, Manham, Hahndorf and around. And we proved that what Ajahn Chah said is true, because walking in Birdwood, we met a number of people, and including Bill, who lives there, and very kindly started to look after the monks, give them some food and sit them down, give them cups of coffee, and then he followed us back here and started to give us help of all kinds, very practical, very useful kinds of help in ways that many other people didn't know how to support us or help us. Bill could. For example, 3 years ago, one really cold, wet July morning, we were putting up a water tank on the hill, because obviously this monastery needs water. You all need water. You've already used the water of the monastery. And we needed to put a water tank up so we could pump up from the dam and then send the water down by gravity to all these buildings. And we put the tank up there, and then the wind started, as today, blowing really strongly, and then the water tank started to blow away. And 3 monks barefoot went up the mountain and said, what are we going to do, guys? And we started to muck around with some ropes and weren't making a very good job of it. And then suddenly this ute turned up and started driving up the hill through the rocks and the grass, in the wind, in the rain. And it was Bill. And Bill single-handedly tied the water tank down, did a much better job than 3 monks who were messing around, making a mess of it. And that's typical of Bill. Ever since we've been here, he's been giving us all kinds of really timely, practical help, advice, warmth, kindness, and proving that what the Buddha said is, when they asked the Buddha, what are you teaching? And he says, I'm teaching a training of the heart. And you might ask, what is Buddhism? Is it a religion, a philosophy? Well, it's a training of the heart, because when we help each other in this way, freely, unsolicited, without seeking anything in return, that's training your heart in the best possible way, training your heart to give up, let go of maybe your more personal or selfish interests, to do something for the good of others and for everybody. And you put a water tank on a hill, which is just one example, I'm lifting it up today. You put a water tank on a hill, that provides water for anyone who comes here. It doesn't choose, does it? Everyone can use the toilets, everyone can use the water. That's available to everyone. That's the kind of help Bill gives, very useful help that helps so many people, and has continued to do that right till today. He's got all these cars parked in the worst possible conditions. Last night we had flooding, rain, thunder, the power went out all night. Ajahn Nyanadhammo was worrying, is this event actually going to happen? Are the tents going to all blow away? But of course it has happened, and partly due to people like Bill, who's given up his time to come and help get all those cars parked, and he's done it several times now, not just once. So today, in honour of all his kindness, sacrifice and help, we are making him an honorary committee member of Bodhipala Monastery. So we even have a plaque and a certificate. Unfortunately, the glass from the plaque was broken by Ajahn Nyanadhammo, but in a way that's good because it's also a teaching, because Ajahn Chao said everything is impermanent. So we're just proving that glass plaques are also impermanent, but that doesn't take away anything from all the kindness and help that Bill has given and continues to give. So I'll present him with this plaque.
Chita palang kesi se patavi pokare habise ke sababhutanang akapato pamutati sunakatang sumangalang supapatang suhutitang sukhano sumuhuto jasuyitam brahmachari supatakinang kaya kamang vacha kamang padakinang mano kamang paditite padakina nikatawana lapantate padakine.
So
special for you, okay? Your sacrifice.
So before we do the closing homage, we would like to invite Khun Mandy-Jane Giannopoulos just to say a few words before we close today. So Peter, you could pass the microphone.
Thank you. I'm honoured to be invited to speak. Thank you. And I'd like to say how much, on behalf of everybody that's here, we appreciate those who have come from far away to be part of this very important and auspicious day. I'd also like to give a special thank you to those venerable monks who are here all the time, sustaining, supporting, and providing wonderful wisdom for the local community. And for everyone in the local community, I'd like to recognise the wonderful help that all of you give. Some people can dig ditches and work here, and that's a very special thing. Whether it's a small contribution or a large one that you've been able to make, that makes a difference. Ajahn Kalyano reminded me when my husband George and I first came here for the first time 3 years ago, how dry and how hot this place was. And not only has the weather been kind to us over winter with such rain, and especially today with blue sky, but also the wonderful gardens that have been able to be built. So thank you for having us here today, and thank you for the wisdom that you provide for the community.
Before we close, also like to make mention of today we have the donors of the land of Bodhipala Monastery here today. Mr. Peter Kwan, President of Bodhipala Monastery, Mrs. Biching Su, and the other representatives of the Su family here today, Bee Lian, Mrs. Su, Mr. Su. So we'd like to extend a big sadhu for all their sacrifice to make Bodhipala happen. Satu, satu, satu.
ยะถาวาริวหาปุราปริปุเรนติสาคารังเอวเมวะอิโตตินังเปตานังอุปกัปปติอิจิตังปฏิตังตุมหังคิปะเมวะสมิจจตุสัพเพปุเรนตุสังกปาจันโทปนรโสยะถามณีโชติรโสยะถาโยเยวาจันตุสัพพะโรโควินาศตุมาเตภวัตวันตรายโยสุขีทีขายุโกภวะอภิวาทนาสีเลสเนจังวุฒาปัสสยิโนจัตตารโอธรรมวันทันติอายุวันโนสุขังภาลังยันจะพุทธากินาเดนะสังฆังวิสุปฏิทิตาเทียงคาราตังหิตายาสตานโสวปปะปฏิโสยาติธรรมโมจะยังเนตาสิโตเปตานพุทธาจักตาอุลาราภรัญจะภิกขุนัมมนุปาทินังตมเหปุญญังปัสสุตังอนัปปะคันติสัพพะพุทธานุภาเวนะสัพพะธัมมานุภาเวนะสัพพะสังฆานุภาเวนะพุทธรัตนังธัมมรัตนังสังฆรัตนังเทนังรัตนานังอนุภาเวนะจตุราสีติสหัสธัมมขันธานุภาเวนะปิตกาตยานุภาเวนะชินสาวกานุภาเวนะสัพเพเทโรคาสัพเพเทพยาสัพเพเทอันตรายาสัพเพเทอุปัตตวาสัพเพเทดวนิมิตตาสัพเพเทอวมังคลาวินาสันตุอายุวัฏโกธนวัฏโกสิริวัฏโกยสวัฏโกพลวัฏโกวันนวัฏโกสุขวัฏโกโหตุสัพพทาตัวคารวะขปยาเวราโสกาสัตตุจปัตตวาอเนกาอันตรายาภิวินาสันตุจเตจะสาจยเสติธนังลาภังโสติภะคยังสุขังพลังสิริอายุจวันโนจะโพคังปุเตจะยสวาสัตวาสจะอายุจะชีวสิทธิภวันตุเตภวตุสัพพมังคลังราคันตุสัพพเทวตาสัพพพุทธานุภาเวนะสัตตาโสทิภวันตุเตภวตุสัพพมังคลังราคันตุสัพพเทวตาสัพพธัมมานุภาเวนะสัตตาโสทิภวันตุเตภวตุสัพพมังคลังราคันตุสัพพเทวตาสัพพสังฆา